All right, guys, so we got to talk about Kari Lake and the desperate attacks against her coming from the mainstream liberal media as she is pulling away from Katie Hobbs in the Arizona governor race. Again, this is par for the course. This is a classic sign of desperation from the mainstream liberal media when Republicans are winning. Well, what they do is that they go right back to the well, the same old talking points that don't work, and they somehow, some way try to connect the individual to the so-called attack on democracy. And this smear right here against Kari Lake that I have briefly talked about is extra disgusting, as they're trying to blame Kari Lake for the deaths of the Capitol police officers that happened after January 6th. Yes, they're trying to say that Kari Lake is responsible for the deaths of Capitol police officers, even going as far as to use one of the mothers of an officer, I think his name was Brian Sicknick, that died after January 6th, using her to essentially try to blame Kari Lake for the death of her son. And another Capitol police officer even went as far as to go on MSNBC and to call Kari Lake a POS for, I don't know why, but just calling her POS, that because she somehow, some way related to what happened on January 6th and the deaths of these Capitol police officers. Take a look.
My son died because of people like Kari Lake.
It's a new ad put out by the Republican Accountability Project. It will air in the key battleground state of Arizona starting tomorrow, underscoring in this home stretch before next week's midterm election the dangerous consequences still today and tomorrow and the next day of the big lie, and drawing a direct link between those false claims of voter fraud and what we're seeing now more and more, political violence. We're back with Michael Fanone and Congressman Eric Swalwell. Michael, is that hard to watch? I know these are people we've come to admire and we've followed their stories, but these are your friends and colleagues.
I mean, she's out there, I think, trying to do what all of us are trying to do here, which is bring accountability for January 6th. And, I also support the fact that Kari Lake's a piece of shit. So I'm glad she did that ad.
And no one is going to say that you haven't put it all out on the line in the bluntest terms possible.
Yeah, so Kari Lake is a POS, according to this former Capitol police officer, because somehow, some way, they've allowed themselves to be brainwashed by the mainstream liberal media to believe that Kari Lake is responsible for January 6th and what happened to those police officers following January 6th. Again, it really is a shame to see how these former law enforcement officials have allowed themselves to become pawns of the Democrat Party. The same party that just a few months prior to January 6th was demonizing police all across the country, saying that policing is a systemically racist institution, okay? Smearing mainly white male police officers. The same party that made sure that they did not have enough backup from the National Guard or any help on that day, January 6th, to deal with that crowd. Yeah, these people have allowed themselves to become pawns of the Democrat Party. It is actually really sad. So with that being said, Kari Lake actually has responded to this criticism from the mainstream liberal media by addressing a question about Officer Sicknick's mother, essentially trying to blame her or connect her with the death of her son. And Kari Lake gave an absolutely perfect response that you're really only going to get from somebody like Kari Lake. Take a look.
Chris Bickley from CBS News.
Hi, Chris.
I don't know if you've seen this ad attacking you. That's
which one?
Which one?
Which one, Chris?
The mother of Brian Sicknick, the Capitol police officer that died the day after January 6th. She, in an attack ad, is saying that people like you specifically are responsible for her son's death. I'm curious, what do you think when you hear that?
What's her name?
The mother of Brian Sicknick?
Yeah.
I think it's Cindy Sicknick.
Cindy, I just want to say to Cindy Sicknick, I'm so sorry about the death of your son. It is tragic. I'm a mother myself, and that is, it breaks my heart. That is a wound when you lose a child, no matter how old they are, that never heals. And so I don't want to disparage her. She doesn't know me. I wasn't anywhere near the Capitol on January 6th. And I understand that her son died, I think, the following day of a stroke or natural causes. And I feel for her, and I see the pain in her eyes. And I would never try to disparage or hurt her, because I know when a mother has pain like that, there's no way to heal that. And that's why I feel for these moms and dads who hit me up on the campaign trail and they grab me. And you can spot them from across the room. There is a loss in their lives that can never be replaced. And we're losing thousands of young people. When they tell me they lost a son to fentanyl, when they lost a daughter to fentanyl poisoning, this is why we are pushing so hard to secure that border and stop fentanyl from pouring across. I'm used to attack ads. I've had probably more money spent against me than any candidate in Arizona in attack ads, but the people know me here. They're not believing what they're seeing in the attack ads. I've been in their homes for 27 years. And additionally, besides attack ads, I've had 100% negative lying coverage by the fake news of me and my campaign and our people. And so we've withstood that, and we will win, and we're going to do great things for Arizona despite what you guys say.
Yeah, so once again, Kari Lake with an absolutely perfect response. I mean, she does not miss, okay? She almost never misses, okay, with her responses to some of these questions from the mainstream liberal media. Because she could have easily said, look, I think it's sad that she's allowing herself, Brian Sicknick's mother, to be used by the mainstream liberal media to smear and to push a lie that somehow, some way I was involved with January 6th. She didn't go that route. She did not go down that route of essentially trying to disparage, Officer Sicknick's mother. She actually went down the route of empathy, being able to empathize with mothers who have lost their sons or their children due to tragic situations, in which she then talked about the mothers that she's talked to that have lost their sons or their children to fentanyl overdose, which is a huge problem in this country. In 2021, nearly 108,000 people died from drug overdoses, 71,000 of them from fentanyl or fentanyl-related substances. It accounts for 77% of adolescent teen overdoses in 2021 and is the #1 cause of death among adults age 18 to 45, more than COVID-19, more than cancer, more than heart disease, and all of the accidents. This is something that the mainstream liberal media is not talking about. But Kari Lake on the campaign trail has had these conversations so that she understands what mothers go through who are losing their son to tragic situations, like a fentanyl overdose or, what happened to Officer Sicknick after January 6th. Now, whether or not it was related to January 6th, we really don't know. That hasn't stopped the mainstream liberal media from saying that he basically died from Trump supporters on January 6th, lying, while also taking advantage of a mother's grief to try to score political points against people who have nothing to do with her son's death. It's absolutely disgusting stuff. It really is. It is truly disgusting things. Because again, if we're going to make the argument that election denialism is leading to people's deaths, right? Anybody who denies an election is responsible for murder. Then, hey, we need to put Hillary Clinton up on trial, right? We need to put a lot of Democrat Party up on trial for them denying elections, right? Making false claims about elections. But again, the question is the mainstream liberal media going to cover this? Right? Are they actually going to cover Kari Lake and her response to Brian Sicknick's mother the same way that they cover everything else that Kari Lake says? Because 100% of the press coverage of Kari Lake is negative. They never have one positive thing to say about Kari Lake. So Kari Lake is responding to these accusations that she somehow, some way was involved with January 6th and the death of these police officers. She's responding to the mother of Brian Sicknick. Are they going to talk about it? The same way they did when they had an officer on to call her a piece of shit? Are they going to acknowledge that Kari Lake actually responded to this? No, probably not. And the reason why is because you can't spin this. You can't spin what Kari Lake just said. You can't cut anything out of context and get a gotcha, right? The same way they did with Kari Lake making a joke about Paul Pelosi's lack of security. Not necessarily making a joke about him getting allegedly hammered, right? She was joking about the circumstances surrounding Paul Pelosi getting hammered in the sense that, yeah, it's a joke that Paul Pelosi didn't have security. considering how the man is worth hundreds of millions of dollars and he's the husband of the Speaker of the House. So they cover that little comment, they cover that little joke, acting like it was the worst thing in the world. So again, are you going to cover her response to the criticism from Brian Sicknick's mother? I think that's newsworthy. But again, they're not going to talk about it because, again, they can't spin this. There's no spin to this. Kari Lake said everything perfectly. There's nothing that they can spin here, so they will not address it. It might actually make Kari Lake look good, right? It might not make her look like she's a heartless, evil person, which is what the mainstream media wants people to believe about her, and that's just simply not the case. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.